Hello and welcome to another read-through of Anastasia. So let's call in, let's just take a deep breath. Let's just make sure that we're here and we focus in the right now. So let's call back all of our energy. Let's call it back from any time, any place, any event, any worry. Bring it all right back here now, right back to your center. And you can close your eyes if you need to, and you can take a couple of deep breaths while I call in our angelic guides and helpers, our guardian angels. We all have guardian angels, and your guardian angels are always around you. So calling in our angelic team of guides and helpers, our guardian angels, calling in Archangel Michael. I really feel like bringing through Archangel Michael today. Archangel Michael fills us with strength, with truth, with honor, with integrity. Archangel Michael is a protector, protects us. Archangel Michael helps us to cut through the lies and the illusions, helps us to see the truth and connect into the truth. So let's call in Archangel Michael. Let's call in the dragons. You know, the dragons made it extremely clear to me that they want to be a part of this storytelling. So let's call in our beautiful dragons, the elementals, the nature spirits. Let's call in the animal spirits. Now, the animal spirit that is really present today is the spider. You know, this morning when I got up, well, just before I was about to start this, on the back of my chair was a spider. And I was like, oh, okay, spider. So I just picked it up and put it outside. And then I just sat down and I felt something on my arm. And there was another spider, the same type of spider. So I put that out as well. And I'd also seen one run across the desk. So I've seen 3 spiders in the space of about 10 minutes. Now, I was doing the garden yesterday with some friends. Just like pruning back the garden, creating some space in the garden, because my garden was absolutely wild, and although I loved it, I literally couldn't get into it anymore. So, you know, obviously as we're bringing things in and out, there's going to be spiders coming in, but I think it's, you know, it's not a coincidence that this morning when I sit down to do this, within the space of 10 minutes, I'm seeing 3 spiders. So the spider spirit is really with us today. And the spider is really about, you know, I connect to the spider as abundance. You know, we've heard of the money spider. Spiders are really about abundance and also protection as well. They also protect our energy. You know, lots of people are afraid of the spider. And actually, interesting, my niece was here yesterday while we were doing these videos and we were talking about the spiders, and she was saying how she has an irrational fear because it is irrational. It's not rational to be scared of a tiny little insect. Of course it's not a rational fear. It's something that gets ingrained into the subconscious, and there's many ways that happens, be it an incident as a child where maybe a parent's freaked out at a spider and it scared you as a child. Maybe it's through all of the movies that are on TV that make us fear spiders rather than tell us the truth about spiders. Many different things that create fear against humans and nature, because it's not rational to fear something tiny. You know, like I think I've said I've worked with many clients to help them heal that phobia, to save the spiders, and also to free them from that stress and anxiety. And I feel like the spider today was reminding me as well of my promise, my commitment that I made to release a free hypnosis to help people. So that's definitely on my list to do. It will be happening soon. But it's not rational, right? You know, like I say to my clients, you know, little tiny spiders, when they see humans, they're actually afraid of humans, right? Because they get killed all the time, right? So they're afraid of humans. So they actually either curl up and freeze and act dead. They go into the freeze response, or they go into the flight response and they try and run away. Unfortunately, many humans chase after them to kill them. But like I say, that is not through a place of malice. Usually it's through programming. So the spider spirit is here today. It wanted to remind me of my commitment that I've made to it, but also it is a symbol of prosperity. It's a symbol of abundance, of plenty. It shows that the world is abundant and we have everything that we need. It's just a matter of of allowing ourselves to believe that again, because we've been trained to believe that everything is finite, that there isn't enough. If I have more, someone has less, but that's not the truth. And this is a big lesson that I've had to be going through, this reprogramming of accepting, of feeling worthy of my abundance. So let's see how, that wanted to come through today. The spider wanted to make itself known, so perhaps it has a special meaning for you as you're watching this. Let's see how it maybe ties in to what we're going to read today. So, advice from Anastasia, the seed as physician. Anastasia has stated, every seed you plant contains within itself an enormous amount of information about the universe. Nothing made by human hands can compare with this information, either in size or accuracy. Through the help of these data, the seed knows the exact time, down to the millisecond, when it is to come alive, to grow, what juices it is to take from the earth. Right, this is an intelligent design. How to make use of the rays of the celestial bodies, the sun, moon, and stars. What it is to grow into, what fruit to bring forth. These fruits are designed to sustain man's life more powerfully and effectively than any manufactured drugs of the present or future. These fruits are capable of counteracting and withstanding any disease of the human body. But to this end, the seed must know about the human condition, so that during the maturation process, it can satiate its fruit with the right correlation of substances to heal a specific individual of his disease, if indeed he has it or is prone to it. In order for the seed of a cucumber, a tomato, or any other plant grown in one's plot to have such information, the following steps are necessary. So amazing, right? What it's saying is we can literally grow food that is going to be specifically coded to our own body's genetic makeup. It can intuitively, through the intelligent web of consciousness, through its intelligent design, through its higher mind, plug into that human body and read exactly what that human needs in order to heal any dis-ease in the body. Then take the seed. So it says, before planting, in order for the seed of a cucumber, tomato, or any other plant grown in one's plot to have such information, the following steps are necessary. So it says, before planting, put into your mouth one or more little seeds. Hold them in your mouth, under the tongue, for at least 9 minutes. And that's important, right? We've got the 333 there. The three's been coming in hugely for me. The 333, which is a 9, right? The 3 is a very important number to the divine. Then place the seed between the palms of your hands and hold it there for about 30 seconds. Here comes the 3 again. During this time, it is important that you be standing barefoot on the spot of earth where you will later be planting it. This is so perfect right now because like I said, I was just doing the garden yesterday, literally making space because I couldn't get into the garden. I've been thinking in my mind, I'm gonna plant some seeds. So I'm going to do this myself. So I hope that you're inspired to do the same as well. So it's important that you be standing barefoot on the spot of earth where you will later be planting it. Open your hands and carefully raise the seed which you are holding to your mouth. Then blow on it lightly, warming it with your breath, and the wee little seed will know everything that is within you. Then you need to hold it with your hands open another 30 seconds, presenting the seed to the celestial bodies, and the seed will determine the moment of its awakening. The planets will all help it, and they will give the sprouts the light they need to produce fruit, especially for you. After that, you may plant the seed in the ground. In no case should you water it right off, so as not to wash away the saliva which is now covering it. Right, okay, amazing. And it's almost like, if you think of that saliva around the seed, it's almost like if you think about the baby that is surrounded in the bag of plasma, right? So it's like that casing, it's like that protection. Amazing. So in no case should you water it right off, okay? So it can be watered 3 days after planting. There's the 3 again, guys, the 333. The planting must be done on days appropriate to each vegetable. People already know this from the lunar calendar. In the absence of watering, a premature planting is not as harmful as an overdue planting, right? So obviously we all know everything inside of me, so I need to remind myself of this information. I'm really wanting to learn more about growing my own vegetables and herbs, and really working with the land in that way. So it says the planting must be done on appropriate days to each vegetable. So there's some research that will need to be done there and looked into. So I think what I would say is decide what you really want to grow. You don't have to start off with a huge vegetable patch. You can start with just growing one herb. And I think that's where I may start as well, just growing a few herbs and using them. So just think of something that you really want to grow, that you really enjoy, and then do some research to find, and I'll start doing some research, and if I find something that I can share with you, I will share with you as well. So it sounds like it's important that we plant this, that we plan when we do this. So we plant it on the appropriate day for each vegetables, and it's obviously in alignment with the lunar calendar. In the absence of watering, a premature planting is not as harmful as an overdue planting. Interesting. It's not a good idea to pull up all the weeds growing in the vicinity of the sprouts. At least one of each kind should be left in place. The weeds can be cut back. Well, that's good because I haven't pulled up any weeds. According to Anastasia, the seed is thus able to take in information about the person who plants it, and then during the cultivation of its fruit, it will pick up from the universe and the earth the maximum amount of energies needed for a given individual. The weeds should not be disposed of completely, as of their own appointed function. Some weeds serve to protect the plants from disease, while others give supplementary information. And interesting, isn't it, that there's so much out there to kill weeds, all that poison that people put into the gardens, that people have been brainwashed to put into the gardens to protect the gardens, to kill the weeds, which, God knows, what is it doing to the soil? What is it doing to what people are growing in? I mean, I think most people that have allotments and things now don't use these kind of toxins, because they understand, they've come to learn, they've come to awaken, as we all are doing at this time. During the cultivation time, it is vital to communicate with the plant, and it is desirable to approach it and touch it during the full moon at least once during its growth period. So that's interesting, because I'm just thinking, it's the 15th now. We've got a full moon on the 17th. So I'm going to look in today whether it's possible, whether there is a herb or a plant, something that is the right time in terms of the lunar cycle that I can plant. So we will see, or it might have to be for the next full moon. We will see. So there's one coming up. So it's desirable. So I guess it's not saying it must be, but it's desirable to approach it and touch it during a full moon at least once during its growth period. Okay. So interesting. So it doesn't have to be the first time, but just at some point during its growth. So actually there's no rush. Anastasia maintains that the fruit cultivated from the seed in this manner and consumed by the individual who cultivated it is capable not only of curing him of all diseases of the flesh, whatsoever, but also of significantly retarding the aging process, rescuing him from harmful habits, tremendously increasing his mental abilities, and giving him a sense of inner peace. The fruit will have the most effective influence when consumed no later than 3 days after harvesting. So again, we've got the 3. So you can see the importance of the 3 here. 3 days after harvesting. The above mentioned steps should be taken with a variety of plant species in a garden plot. It's not necessary to plant a whole bed of cucumbers, tomatoes, etc. In this manner, just a few plants each is enough. The fruit of plants grown like this will be distinguished from other plants of the same species, not only in taste. If analysed, it will be seen that they are also distinct in terms of the substances they contain. When planting the seedlings, it is important to soften the dirt in the excavated hole with one's fingers and bare toes and spit into the hole. So that's putting your saliva again. Responding to my question, why the feet? Anastasia explained that through perspiration from one's feet comes substances, toxins no doubt, containing information about bodily diseases. Right, and I'm just doing a detox right now on my colon, a colonic detox, which I'm going to share with some of my clients. And you know, I'm going to be then doing a liver and a kidney one, and I know a lot of the liver ones is pads that you put on the feet that draw out all the toxins. The feet are they're such powerful energy centers on the feet that can draw out all those toxins, so that makes total sense. This information is taken in by the seedlings. They transmit it into the fruit, which will thus be able to counteract diseases. Anastasia recommended walking around the plot bare feet from time to time. What kind of plants should one cultivate? Anastasia replied, the same variety that exists in most garden plots is quite sufficient. Raspberries, currants, gooseberries, cucumbers, tomatoes, wild strawberries, any kind of apple tree, sweet or sour, cherries, and flowers would be very good too. It does not make any difference how many plants of each kind there are or how big the area of cultivation is. There are a few definites without which it would be difficult to manage a full energy microclimate. One of them is sunflowers. At least one plant. There should also, there are a few definites without which it would be difficult to imagine a full energy microclimate. One of them is sunflowers. Interesting, the sunflowers been coming up a lot for me recently. There should also be 1.5 to 2 square meters of cereal grains, rye or wheat for example, and be sure to leave an island or at least 2 square meters for wild growing herbs, ones that are not planted manually. If you are not left any of them growing around your plot, you can bring in some turf from the forest and therefore create an island of natural growth. I asked Anastasia if it were necessary to plant these definites directly in the plot, if there were already some wild growing herbs close by, say just beyond the fence, and this is how she responded. It's not just the variety of plants that is significant, but also how they are planted. The direct communication with them that allows them to take in the information they need. I have already told you about one of the methods of planting that is the basic one. It is essential to infuse the literal patch of nature surrounding you with information about yourself. Only then will the healing effect and life-giving support of your body be significantly higher than from the fruit alone. Out in the natural wilds, as you call them, and nature really is not wild, it's just unfamiliar to you. There are a great many plants that can help us cure all, and I mean all existing diseases. I absolutely believe that 100%. These plants have been designed for that purpose, but man has lost or almost lost the ability to identify them. Okay, there's a few pictures here. I'm going to show them because you're reading the book with me, so why not see the book? There's a map of Russia, the Western Siberia, which is the forest where he's spending his time. That's his ship. And I have to say, you know, I'm on book 2 and I'm really, really loving this author. You really, you know, he goes on a massive journey of growth. There's a few more pictures there, you know. See what we've got here. This is a lake in the tiger forest there. This is obviously his ship here. So left, Vladimir second from left. So I think that's him there. So so it's hard to I think that's him there. Yes, it is, because he's also on the bottom. Okay, let's move on. And then there's lots of pictures of people in their allotments as well, working with the earth. Oh, beautiful there. Little girl working with the earth there. It says the meaning of life. This is to be found in truth, joy and love. And again, me and my niece were talking about this yesterday, because we were talking about something and about evolution. I was kind of saying, oh, well, the evolution story, you know, that's not the whole truth. But what she said was, well, it doesn't matter what I believe. And I was like, you know what, you're right. Very wise words from my niece. I was like, you're absolutely right. All that matters is love. Beyond our beliefs, it doesn't matter if we believe different things. Really all that matters is love. That is the truth of everything. And as we plug into that as a collective, you know, the whole world is going to change. Rather than just fighting about our differences, it's actually about us uniting. I mean, we weren't fighting, right? We were just having a conversation, but it's about us uniting. But it brought through a, you know, I just thought, absolutely, you're absolutely right. That is the truth. We don't need to argue over who's. We don't need to be right. We don't need to be right. We're all on our journey, and we're all at different stages of our awakening. And you know, I've awoken to so many things. I mean, I used to believe that as well. You know, so I can totally understand it. I used to believe that even though I knew we were a soul, I still believed that we evolved from apes, because that was basically what I was programmed to believe as a child, and all through school. That is the programming out there of the mainstream. So when I started to discover that wasn't the truth, I wasn't shocked, to be honest, because of everything I've been discovering. But it's a journey we're going, and it doesn't actually matter at what point we are, because ultimately it's love that matters. So it was a real, like, I just felt so warm when she said that, and I was like, yes, absolutely, that's so true, Amelie. That is the truth. So it says here, the meaning of life. This is to be found in truth, joy and love. A 9-year-old child brought up in the natural world has a far more accurate perception of creation than all the scientific institutions of the world. Absolutely. Absolutely. Right. So I told Anastasia that we already have more specialised pharmacies which deal in healing herbs, just as there are many physicians and medicine men who make a profession out of herb treatments. And she replied, the chief physician is your own body. Right from the start, it was endowed with the ability to know which herb should be used and when, how to eat and breathe. It is capable of warding off disease even before its outward manifestation. And nobody else can replace your body, for this is your personal physician, given individually to you by God and personally only to you. I am telling you how to provide it with the opportunity to act beneficially on your behalf. If you make connections with the plants in your garden plot, they will take care of you and cure you. They will make the right diagnosis all by themselves and prepare the most effective medicine especially designed for you. Right? And again, I was talking to somebody the other day, and we were talking about, it was in my local organic shop, and we were talking about, he was talking about a trial and how some new drugs had been brought out for, I think it was dementia. No, it was arthritis. It was arthritis, that's right, because he was saying that, so this trial and these new drugs for arthritis, and after it, 3 people that were in wheelchairs managed to get out of the wheelchair, started to walk, didn't need the wheelchairs anymore. And it was like, this was proof the drug worked. On it turned out these were the 3 that were on the placebo, i.e. they weren't taking the medicine. Because you are the physician, and if you believe it, you can heal it in your body. It's really all this is why the system is out there, to create all these doubts, all these fears. It actually keeps us locked into illness, because we don't believe how simple it really is to heal. It's really about us giving our bodies what they need, reducing stress in our life, being in nature, doing these things with the herbs, right? How amazing is that? That's just absolutely amazing. learning about our energy bodies, connecting to our spirits. It's really all within us. When I do my healing work with my clients, I'm connecting them to the self. That, I am guiding them to connect to their selves, and it's their soul, and it's their spirit team, and it's their human part that aligns with it, that takes the steps that they're guided to take, that allows all that healing to take place. Who gets stung by bees? Wow, interesting this. I was thinking about this the other day because I used to get stung. A memory came to me, and I wonder if any memories are coming to you as we're going through this, right? It's interesting that we got to this bit because this memory came to me yesterday when I was about somewhere between 8 and 10. Over the wall from where I used to live I used to get stung by bees all the time, bees and wasps constantly as a child, so much so, but I wasn't afraid of bees and wasps. I loved them so much that there was a wasp nest over the wall of where I lived, and I put my hand in it. I was on my own, I put my hand in it, I allowed all the wasps to just walk around in my hand, and I was just watching them. I wasn't afraid of them. I was just mesmerised by them. Until then I was like, okay, I want to leave now. And I was like, okay, I want to leave now. And I was like, how do I get these things off my hand? And I asked the question, and boom, God showed me how to get these off my hand, because one of them flew up my skirt, stung me, and I jumped and I ran. So I'm going to be interested to see what this says. I've read this book, I've read this book, I'm in front of it, but I can't remember. I'm like at the near the end of the second book, so I forget this bit. It's just interesting it's coming up because that memory came to me yesterday. In every garden plot, there should be at least one colony of bees. I told Anastasia there are very few people in our society who can communicate with bees. Special training is required and not everyone is successful. But she replied, a lot of what you do to maintain bee colonies just gets in the way. Over the past millennia, there have been only 2 people on Earth who have come close to understanding this unique form of life. And who might they be? They are 2 monks who have since been canonized. You can read about them in your books. They can be found in many monastery archives. Come on now, Anastasia. You read church literature too. When? You don't even have a single book. I have at my disposal a much more complete method of retrieving information. What kind of method? Again, you're talking in circles. After all, you promised me you wouldn't resort to any mysticism or fantasy. I shall tell you about it. I shall even try teaching you to it. You will not understand it right away, but it is simple and natural. Well, okay. So how should bees be kept in a garden plot? All you have to do is build the same kind of hive for them they would have under natural conditions, and that is it. After that, your only task remaining is to go to the hive and gather part of the honey, wax and other substances they produce that are so useful for man. Anastasia, that's not simple at all. Who knows what that natural hive should look like? Now I can tell you how to do it myself with the materials we have at our disposal. Then that might be something feasible. All right, she laughed. Then you will have to wait a bit. I need to visualize it. I have to see what people in today's world might have on hand, as you say. And where should it be placed so as not to spoil the view, I added. I shall look into that too. She lay down on the grass as she always did, visualizing her, or rather our life situations, but this time I began to observe her carefully. As she lay on the grass, her arms were stretched out in different directions with palms upturned. Her fingers were partly curled, and their tips, specifically the tips of the 4 fingers on one hand, so like this I guess, were also pointed so that their soft parts faced upwards. Her fingers first began to stir a little, but then stopped. Her eyes were closed. Her body was completely relaxed. Her face too appeared relaxed at first, but then a faint shadow of some kind of feeling or sensation moved across it. Later, she explained how seeing at a distance could be practiced by anyone with a particular kind of upbringing. About the beehive, Anastasia had the following to say. You need to make the hive in the shape of a hollow block. You can either take a log with a hole in it and hollow it out to enlarge the cavity, or use boards from a deciduous tree to make a long hollow box 120 centimeters long. The board should be no less than 6 centimeters thick, and the inside measurements of the cavity at least 40 by 40 centimeters. Triangular strips should be inserted into the corners where the inner surface meets to make the cavity somewhat rounded. The strips can be just lightly glued in place, and the bees themselves will firm them up afterwards. I mean, I am not going to try and do this right now on my own anyway, but it is something for the future where I'll probably get some help with doing this when I'm on a plot of land where this is feasible for me, for sure. One end should be fully and permanently covered with a board of the same thickness, with a removable panel at the other end. For this, the panel needs to be cut in such a way that it fits neatly into the opening and sealed with grass of some kind of cloth covering the whole bottom. Make a slit or a series of slits to provide access for the bees along the bottom edge of one of the sides, approximately 1.5 centimeters wide, starting 30 centimeters from the removal panel and continuing to the other end. This hive can be set on pilings anywhere in the garden plot, at least 20 to 25 centimeters off the ground, with the slits facing south. It is even better, however, to set it up under the roof of the house. Then people will not interfere with the bees flying out and will not be bothered by them. In this case, the hive should be aligned horizontally at a 20 to 30 degree angle, with the opening to the lower end. The hive could even be installed in the attic, provided there is proper ventilation, or on the roof itself. Interesting, right? Best of all, and we know that beehives do themselves set themselves up in people's attics, right? So it shows it has the perfect conditions for people. Unfortunately, people often bring in pest control, but that again is just because of the fear, because we've not been really taught the truth about nature and about our connection to it and how to work with it. But that's going to change, right? You know, my sister does a forest school, a forest school at the school she works at, and often she sends me pictures basically nearly every day, and she's like, this is my classroom today, and that classroom is outside, it's in nature. And I'm like, yes, exactly, that is the classroom of the future, where we're going to really start to learn and remember our connection to nature and how everything on this planet is here to create harmony, for that where human, the man is the man and the woman, where the human can live in perfect harmony. It's all here to make life beautiful for us. We've just been programmed away from that. So I do see that in the future. I see that the classroom is really going to be nature, and perhaps we're going to have, we're going to have these exactly what she's saying. We're going to have lots of plots where children, we're going to be growing our own fruit. We're going to be creating our own plots as children, learning our connection to nature. Perhaps we've got a beehive that we all work together. There's just going to be so much change when it comes to our educational system and how we work with children and with ourselves going forward. So I love this. The hive could even be installed in the attic, provided there is proper ventilation, or on the roof itself. Best of all, though, attach it to the south wall of the house, just under the eaves. The only thing is, you need to make sure you have proper access to the hive so you can remove the honeycomb. Otherwise, the hive should stand on a small platform with an overhead canopy to protect it from the sun, and can be wrapped with insulation in winter. I remarked to Anastasia that this type of hive could be rather heavy, and the platform and canopy might spoil the appearance of the house. Oh wow, this just shows how much it goes through a lot of growth, right? Because people care about this stuff, right? Like, how's my house gonna look? What to do in that case? She looked at me a little surprised, exactly, but she'd be like, what? And then explained, the thing is that your beekeepers do not really go about it the right way. My grandfather told me about this. Beekeepers today have concocted a lot of different ways of constructing a hive, but all of them involve constant human intervention in its operation. They move the honeycomb frames around within the hive, or move both the hive and the bees to a different spot for the winter, and that is something they should not do. Bees build their honeycombs at a specific distance apart to facilitate both ventilation and defense against their enemies, and any human intervention breaks down this system. Instead of spending their time gathering honey and raising offspring, the bees are obliged to fix what has been broken. Right? You know, when the spider came in first, what was coming into my mind was, we can see the parallels with the spider here and the bee. You know, the bees know what to do. The spider creates that intricate web. Think about how much dedication and time goes into creating that web. Think about how many times as humans we just walk through those webs. And in fairness, sometimes, I've got these posts in my garden. I've had this massive web there. In fairness, I was going under it for a long time, but it's not feasible to do that forever. So, but we can see, right, how, the spider spends that time creating that intricate web, and how if, a human just walks through it, then it's got to start again, right? And it can't really get on with the job that it's here to do. So I can totally get that with the bees. That makes absolute sense. The poor bees, right? They must be like, oh, for God. Obviously, the human thinks it's helping. Obviously, when a human beekeeper, I don't know anything about beekeeping, but obviously when the human beekeeper, or at least I don't remember. I've got to remember, right, my connection to the bees. I know I'm connected to the bees. I remember that. But imagine the beekeeper thinks it's helping by moving it, probably to keep it warm. But then for the bees, they're like, oh, it's ruined the ventilation. They've got to then repair the damage. Bees build their honeycombs at a specific distance to facilitate both ventilation and defense against their enemies. And any human intervention breaks down this system. Instead of spending their time gathering honey and raising offspring, the bees are obliged to fix what has been broken. Under natural conditions, bees live in tree hollows and cope with any situation perfectly well on their own. I told you how to keep them under conditions as close to their natural ones as possible. Their presence is extremely beneficial. They pollinate all the plants much more effectively than anything else, thereby increasing the yield. But you must know this pretty well already. What you may not know is that bees probuses open up channels in the plants through which the plants take in supplementary information reflected by the plants. Information the plants and subsequently human beings require, but bees sting people, don't you see? How can somebody get a good rest at a plot if they're constantly afraid of being stung? Bees only sting when people act aggressively towards them, wave them off, become afraid or irritated inside. Not necessarily as the bees, but just as anyone. Exactly right. Anytime I've been stung, I was stung on my head as a child because I felt something and I went like that. I was like, oh, what's that? And it was a bee. So it stung me. A bee once flew down I don't know how the hell it got in there. I felt something on my arm and I went like that and it stung me. So really, I've been stung quite a lot as a child, but often when I had my hand in the wasp's nest, so it was a wasp that stung me then, it flew up my skirt. Obviously my leg, so it stung me. So it wouldn't have done it if it wasn't for that. So they don't just sting people, they only do it when they feel under threat. And one could say the truth is of humans, right? When they feel under threat by a tiny little spider, they just kill it. At least the bee doesn't kill us. But bees sting people, don't you see? Okay, so bees only sting when people act aggressively towards them, wave them off, become afraid or irritated inside. Not necessarily at the bees, but just at anyone. Oh, that's interesting. The bees feel this and will not tolerate the rays of any dark feelings. I love that. Besides, they may attack those parts of the body also where there are channels connected with some disease, internal organ, or where the protective aura has been torn or so forth. So it's also a protection. How beautiful is that? You know how effectively bees are already used in treating the disease you called... Oh, I've not heard of that disease. I'm just going to show you. radiculatus. I don't know what that is, but that is far from being the only thing that they can do. If I were to tell you about everything, especially showing the evidence you are asking for, you would have to spend not just 3 days, but many weeks with me. Annie's there for 3 days, right? There is a lot written about bees in your world. All I have done is introduce a few correctives, but please believe me, they are extremely important correctives. To establish a colony of bees in a hive like that is very easy. Before dumping a swarm of bees into the hive, put in a little chunk of wax and some honey plant. You do not need to put in any handmade frames or cells. Afterwards, when there are colonies established on even a few neighbouring plots, the bees will multiply all by themselves. Then, as they swarm, they will occupy the empty hives. And how should the honey be gathered? Open the panel, break off the hanging honeycombs, and retrieve the sealed honey and pollen. Only do not be greedy. It is important to leave part of it for the bees for the winter. In fact, it is better not to collect any honey at all during the first year. Amazing. Hello morning. Anastasia has adopted her morning routine to the conditions of the allotment plot. In the morning, preferably at sunrise, walk out to the garden plot barefoot and approach any plants you like. You can touch them. This does not have to be done in accord with some sort of schedule or ritual to be strictly followed day after day, but simply as one feels moved or as one desires, but it should be done before washing. Then the plants will sense the odours of the substances emitted by the body through the pores of the skin during sleep. If it is warm and there is a small grassy patch close by, and it would be helpful if there were, lie down there and stretch out for 3 or 4 minutes. And if some little bug should happen to crawl onto your body during this time, do not chase it away. Many bugs open up pores on the human body and cleanse them. As a rule, the pores prone to clogging are the ones through which toxins are expelled, thus bringing all sorts of internal ailments to the surface and allowing the person to wash them away. If there is any pond water on the plot, and I must admit, from doing my gardening, yes, I've been bitten a few times, and it made me think about, I know that I'd read somewhere in this, so it's obviously this part where she talks about how, when insects bite us, they're really helping us to get rid of toxins, and it makes sense totally. If there is any pond water on the plot, you should immerse yourself in that. If not, then you can pour water over yourself as you stand barefoot close to the plants and garden beds, or even better, between the beds. Or, for example, one morning alongside the raspberry bushes, the next by the currant bushes, etc. And after washing, you should not dry off right away. You should shake off the water drops from your hands, spreading them onto the surrounding plants, and use your hands to brush off the water from other plants of your body. After this, you can go through the usual procedures of washing and using any conveniences to which you are accustomed. Evening routine. In the evening before going to bed, it's important to wash your feet. Interesting. Using water with the addition of a small quantity of juice from saltbush or nettles, or the two together, but no soap or shampoo. After washing your feet, pour the water onto the garden bed. Then if necessary, you can still wash your feet with soap. This evening routine is important for 2 reasons. As the feet perspire, toxins come to the surface, removing internal diseases from the body, and these must be washed away to cleanse the pores. Juices from saltbush or nettles are good at facilitating this process. In pouring the remaining water into the bed, you are giving supplemental information to the microorganisms and plants about your current state of well-being. This is very important. Only after receiving this information can our visual and invisible world around you work out to pick up from the universe and the earth everything it needs for the normal functioning of the body. Right, so I'm going to leave it there. Because I've probably interspersed quite a bit today, so that's quite a long reading. But I thought that was really beautiful. And whilst it's important for us not to get overwhelmed if we learn new things and think, oh, I'd like to do all that, because we end up doing nothing then. So we just need to take little steps. So for me, you know, I do want to create a garden plot in my garden, and I've just had the garden cut back, but I'm going to start small. So that's my advice. Start small, take a little step, and then we start to grow it. And perhaps you know somebody that has a plot themselves, and they can actually even help you. Perhaps they can listen to this information. Perhaps this will be something that helps them, because, you know, again, you know, we're not really taught about these things. We've got to start remembering again and connecting back to this information ourselves. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one.